Enter the arena uncut. The Donwan Banks and live from South Korea, the best MMA analyst on YouTube today, Tommy Razorstein, UFC legal in New York City after a 20-year ban. Let's go straight to Fox Sports. New York legalizes MMA after nearly 20-year ban on the sport. Following a nearly 20-year battle. I'm sorry, Time Raystown. We might have to mute your mic real quick because we can hear something in the background. We'll just mute real quick. Following a 20-year battle, New York finally has lifted the ban on mixed martial arts, joining the other 49 states that already allowed and regulated the sport. The vote went down on Tuesday with the New York State Assembly approving the measure by a vote of 113-25. It's been a long fight to finally see MMA take place in New York after former Governor George Pataki first banned the sport in 1997. At that time, MMA was still a largely unregulated sport with few rules to govern that athletes, dishing out punishment inside the cage. State athletic commissions in New Jersey, eventually Nevada, helped adopt a new rule set that became the standard for MMA, and slowly but surely, the sport became legal across the United States. Still, New York was the lone holdout, with the vote to legalize MMA passing in the state Senate each of the past 7 years, but ultimately fizzing out before being voted on by the Assembly. Mark Ratner, UFC, starts spreading the news. I'm in a New York state of mind. Hashtag tag New York, New York. Several members of the Assembly spoke out in favor of and against the bill passing before the vote took place. The sport has evolved considerably in the last 2 decades. Assemblyman Joseph Morale, the sponsor of the MMA bill, said after acknowledging he was against the sport being legalized in New York for many years, while there were a few voices who were loudly against MMA being legalized in New York, it appeared the majority of the Assembly was on board with ban being lifted. However, the debate raged on for more than 3 hours as members of the Assembly bounced back and forth with arguments about legalizing MMA in New York. It's time to legalize mixed martial arts in the state of New York, Republican Assemblyman Dean Murray stated. It seemed 2016 was the year to make the vote finally happen, especially with Governor Andrew Cuomo adding a provision for MMA in his yearly budget. I've waited a long time for today and couldn't be more excited to have MMA legal in my hometown of New York. Chris Weidman, former UFC middleweight champion. The Senate once again passed the MMA bill before the Assembly did the same on Tuesday, and now all that's left to handle is Cuomo signing it into the law, which he is expected to do following the budget measure for 2016. The only other hurdle would be the New York Athletic Commission finalizing a set of rules which could take up to 120 days, and then the sport would be fully legalized in a state. The UFC has long awaited for the chance to put on a show in New York, going as far as scheduling a card there in April at Madison Square Garden. The promotion filed an injunction to allow the show to take place, but the court system shot it down, and the show eventually was moved to Las Vegas. That was Daniel DC Cormier fighting John Jones. Now, with MMA finally legalized there, UFC officials have now committed to at least 4 shows in New York per year for the first 3 years the sport is allowed. This has been a long time coming, and on behalf of our New York UFC athletes and fans, I want to offer heartfelt thanks to Speaker Helsty, Majority Leader Morale, and all the members of Assembly, Democrats and Republicans, who voted for this bill. UFC co-owner Lorenzo Fertitta said in a statement, I want to assure our fans that if Governor Cuomo signs the bill into law and the State Athletic Commission puts in place the appropriate regulations, we look forward to hosting our first New York event in the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, home to so many epic sporting events throughout the decades. We also look forward to scheduling events in Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Utica, Albany, and Brooklyn. We are excited. Several notable UFC fighters hail from New York, including light heavyweight champion Jon Jones, former middleweight champion Chris Weidman, and top rising bantamweight Aljamain Sterling. Once the first UFC show is scheduled for New York, it's likely a ton of native fighters will be campaigning a bit to land a spot on the Covenant card. Now, live from South Korea, we're going to Tommy Razorstein. You can unmute the mic. I had to mute it because there was some background noise. It should be a right up at the top of your screen. You should be able to click the mic, and it should back. Tommy.
Don, you hear me?
Yes, we are live. UFC is legal, and we have you live from South Korea.
This is good, dude. Finally. We've been waiting for this day. I would love to see a fight in Madison Square Garden.
I just got a question for you, Tommy. Do you want people to see your face, or because your
not at this moment right now.
Okay. Do you want to just turn the camera off?
Can you see me?
Almost, but you can turn the camera off.
That's not.
It's at the top of the screen, the camera. Yes, there you go.
Not me? Good.
Yes. Man, you're so excited, man.
This is going to be great, dude. This is going to be great to see a fight in Madison Square Garden, finally. If we can get the Daniel Cormier and Jon Jones fight to go on, that would be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be able to, take the train in from Philadelphia and see a fight in New York. That's the dream, dude. That's the dream. And see a fight in Madison Square Garden. There's nothing like being in New York. And then seeing a fight, an MMA fight in New York. UFC. Maybe Jon Jones fighting out of his hometown.
Oh my God.
Just imagine,
dude.
That
would be epic.
It would be epic. What do you think, Don? Are you excited about it or what?
First and foremost, excitement is not the word. It's dropping. It's earth-shattering. It's groundbreaking. It is monumental. It's epic. It's barn burner. Let me tell you something, Razorstein. I want to buy a ticket right now. For that, even if it's not the first UFC event there, long as I attend one UFC event in New York, especially if you make that trip back to the United States of America, I would love it. I mean, it would be like heaven on earth. Razorstein. And you know what, Razorstein? I know some people are mad about it. I know the Vince McMahons of the world, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, WWE Entertainment. He says he owns Madison Square Gardens when he has event there. We know boxing has a lot of events there. And the UFC is now in the forefront to compete. It's something that you've always visualized, Tommy.
You know what? I don't know why it was banned for so long. I still can't understand why it was banned for so long. I could see maybe in the beginning where, there weren't any rules. But now, I couldn't understand, like 2 years ago, why. I couldn't understand for the life of me. Why have it banned? It's safer than boxing. It's, regulated, well regulated. We know if the athletes are on drugs for the most part, compared to a lot of other sports where you're just kind of speculating. It's difficult to pass, a drug test if you've taken something. They find out if you have cocaine in your system. It's pretty wild, dude. So I'm happy that these fights can finally go to New York. I mean, it's the heart of our country. And for it not to be legal in the heart of our country, I'm glad it is now.
Yes. Tommy, I think this is monumental. Just to be a part of this, talking about it with you here and the fans of Into the Arena, New York City, just a mecca of entertainment. And for UFC to finally cross this hurdle, I mean, when you look at the articles that's coming out and you look at the statistics and you look at the numbers, the UFC numbers are growing dramatically and significantly. Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz was the biggest pay-per-view in history. So they continue to break records. This is still a growing sport. And I think that this is a sport that in 5 to 10 years from now is going to be monstrous. I love boxing. Everyone knows I love boxing. That's why we do MMA and boxing here. So, I'm neutral. I love both, but I'm telling you, mixed martial arts is the wave of the future.
It really is. And you know what? I was just talking to one of my friends from back home, and he just got into MMA. He's, a big Conor McGregor fan. So he just got into MMA not too long ago. He's, really changed his mind about fighting and, how it's not that dangerous of a sport compared to what a lot of people thought before. Now, I think that they should add 6 weeks or 8 weeks prior to a fight. You should have to swim in a pool so that way you can't have an injury before, which happens a lot and fighters pull out. But it's becoming safer for the fighters, and people are getting involved in it, and they're changing their mindset on it. A lot of times people always thought, oh well, we don't know who would win the fight. Now we understand that it's multiple aspects of a fight that that makes a great fighter.
Exactly.
So now that we've learned so much about this sport, and you couldn't deny it from being legal in the heart of our country. You couldn't deny the access and having fighters who are the champs at the time. The lightweight champion and a former middleweight champion.
Mm-hmm.
Weidman was a champion. It was banned, and it was like, why? Why? I don't understand. It just doesn't make sense at all. I mean, over here in Korea, it's legal, but in New York, it wasn't. Like, it didn't make any sense. It was legal all around the world, no problems whatsoever. But a place that's supposed to be open-minded and come up with new creative ideas and, mixed cultural place.
Yes.
New York's the most cultural diverse place in the world, and they're like, nope, we're not going to let it happen. Why? It's the most diverse cultural place in the world, and their attitude was like, nope, we're old school. Like, what the fuck, man? So I'm glad that they changed their mindset on that and, have a different view on life, different view on how, what a sport is. So it's nice to see that people are starting to change their mindset. And, this is necessary for fighters to fight. They have a place to fight. Hey, how you doing? So they have a place to fight. You know what I mean? So that way people aren't fighting on the streets. Exactly. This makes it better for society. People are going to fight. Tyson always said that. Tyson always said, you know what? If I didn't have a place to fight, I'd fight on the street. And that's what a lot of people do. So now they have a place to go to, which makes things safer. Just like the idea of providing condoms to kids.
Yes.
They're going to have sex if they can. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If I could do it, a teenager, in high school, some beautiful women walk up to me. Of course I'm going to do it. You think I'm always like, oh no, I should be abstinent? No. Well, might as well give a kid a condom if it's going to happen. Same thing. Might as well give these people a place to do it at, a place to train at. And nothing really makes you humble more than getting your fucking ass kicked. Yeah. You got a lot of people walking around who think they're, amazing for no reason. And it's like nothing humbles you more than getting your ass kicked.
So it's a humbling sport. It gives you a different viewpoint on life, and it's really healthy to except for weight cutting, which most most people don't do. But if you want to train it, it's great, dude. It's a great sport. So I'm really happy. It's a great day, and we keep jumping over those hurdles. It was passed on Fox, and remember the day when it was open on Fox. I was like,
Yeah,
wow, Don, finally
crazy.
USC's on Fox. And now New York finally came to their senses. So I'm real happy about this.
Well, you know what? Like I said, Razor Stein talking about the numbers. I think the numbers in the UFC are only going to rise. I think that this is really competitive to like Vince McMahon at WWE when they always had the advantage of going to New York. The boxing had the advantage of going to New York. Now with the UFC going to New York, it's only going to make the sport grow. I think you touched on everything of how the UFC is great to train and how so many boxers and kickboxers and people from different elements are getting involved in mixed martial arts, not just the wrestlers. And I think UFC is just going to be really, really phenomenal and it's really growing. I mean, I just take a look at our viewership and, it continues to go up all the time. And so I can just tell that UFC is going to be really, really big in the future. And I think crossing this hurdle in New York is just, going to help them grow even more.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's going to grow even more, Don. I think the sport that's growing and is going to continue to grow, and people like Conor McGregor are going to bring in more people.
Yes.
So it's a sport that's growing. It's going to continue to grow, and unfortunately, boxing is going to die out. Boxing is going to die, Don.
Now, and I can't agree.
It has one foot in the grave, and the person putting that foot in the grave was Floyd Mayweather. Forcing that foot into the grave. The sport killer was Floyd Mayweather. Maybe it'll rebound now that Floyd's out, but man, has boxing suffered over the past 10 years. I mean, since Tyson left, dude. Holy shit.
I mean, you got a lot of up-and-coming fighters. I mean, you got Triple G out there. You got Danny Garcia out there. You got a lot of fighters. So, Ray Stein, I won't put the won't give the eulogy to boxing because I'm an avid boxing fan.
I will.
I will. Razor Stein.
And I know the importance of the sport. You know what I mean? It isn't like I don't understand the importance of the sport of like, Nick Diaz and Nate Diaz, and they have their great boxing skills, and I totally understand that. But what I'm saying is this: like, it's a dying sport because it's getting killed, man.
I can agree with Mayweather killing the sport. I mean, he did.
Yeah, Mayweather killing it. It's becoming a defensive game. There's nobody like Tyson coming in. Plus, you don't know who the best fighter is. You know who the best boxer is, but you don't know who the best fighter is. I want to know who the best fighter is, not the best boxer. It's a one-dimensional sport that's being killed by its own athletes and its sport itself.
Well, for Tommy Razorstein live in South Korea and the Don Juan Banks, UFC MMA is legalized in New York City, and it is coming there very, very soon. New York!
New York!
New York!